Have any of y'all ever heard of the game Zork? It's not a very famous game. It was made quite a while back. In fact, on the screenshot right here, it says copyright in 1981. Yeah, it's kind of old. The reason why I'm talking about this old game is because it's probably the most famous, in my opinion, text-based adventure game. If you don't know what that is, it's very important you know, because I'm going to be talking about them a lot. Text-based adventure games are basically games where it gives you a sentence, a big block of text, and then it gives you choices so that you can continue with the story. It's kind of like choose your own adventure games, but you can have health systems and inventories, and you can set variables, and so much more stuff. Coding is actually very important in text-based adventure games. So basically, for instance, if that doesn't make sense to you, for instance, let's say in your text-based adventure game, it says you are in a dungeon and there's a troll approaches you. Now it'll say that, and then it'll give you these options of what to do, like run from troll or attack troll. And if you press one of the options, it'll take you to another passage, which will say you ran from the troll, for example, if you pressed run from troll. Anyway, so the reason why I bring up all this is because today I'm going to be showing you how to work with Twine. This is the front page of Twine. Basically, it's a very, very simple, beginner-friendly... Wait a second, am I even recording? Okay, yeah, sorry. I was just making sure I was recording. Okay. Alright. It's a very simple, beginner-friendly coding program, basically. It uses JavaScript and CSS, just a little bit of each one, and you can add more from those things into it if you know JavaScript and CSS. Basically, it's a really, really, really cool system. So you can make your own, and you can make your own text-based adventure games. I'm kind of being repetitive, I'm sorry. Anyway, so once you come to the front page of it, twinery.org, make sure it's not twine.org, because that's a whole different thing. Probably a scam, probably a virus. Twinery.org, and then we have the downloads. Windows 10, Mac, Linux, 32-bit, whatever that is. And so you're just going to want to download from any of those. You can also use it online, but the saves aren't as reliable. So once you download it, you should be greeted with something like this, without this little block right here. That's the thing that I'm working on. Now, once you're here, you probably thought to press the plus story button. Also, if you don't like the brightness, you can also switch it to dark, but I'm going to stay with bright. So you just click that, and then you can name whatever you want it to be. So whatever you want the story to be. I'm just going to call it test. So we have test. Alright, good. Now, before we get into all this, because it's kind of overwhelming, let's take one thing at a time. First, and most important, is this right here. This is basically the settings to your story. You can add stuff in JavaScript and in CSS. You can change the story format. You can rename the story, select all passages, snap to grid, story statistics, and a lot of other stuff. Basically, this is what we need to be focusing on for now. Also, press snap to grid, because it keeps your things organized. It snaps to the little squares. Anyway, so we're going to press change story format. These are all different little ways that if you choose one of these, it'll run your game completely different from another one. So I'm going to be on Harlow 3.0.2. Make sure you're on the same one, or else the game will be completely different, and you'll have to change up so much stuff, and things will break, and it'll be confusing. So have it at 3.0.2, because that's the most beginner-friendly. That and the other Harlow. The other two Harlows. Alright, so let's get into this. As you can see, we have an untitled passage. We have a little plus sign right here, a play, a test, and 3 little spots. These little blocks. Don't click these. Do not click them, okay? You might need those later, but not right now. For now, we're going to get into this. So we have 4 little choices. We have the trash, which is just delete it. We have the edit it. And we have the play. And then we have more passage options. So we can just like make it big or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, so what we're going to first want to do is edit it. So this is where we're going to do all of our coding and all of our story. So this is where we're going to write down all of the passageways we can take and all of the story itself. So like for instance, like I was saying, you're in a dungeon. So you're in a dungeon. And a troll approaches you. Basically, when you click the play button, which you can click here or here, it doesn't matter, it's going to say that you're in a dungeon and a troll approaches you. Now that's kind of bland because that's just like a book. But we need to have choices. So, let's get into making choices that they can choose. So, the way you make little passageways you can click on is you add 2 brackets and then you say something. So let's say, how about run? Okay? As you can see, those 4 brackets that are surrounding it turn blue. That's the computer saying, okay, we understand this is a passage and we'll create one for you. So now we have a passage named run. But what if we don't want this? Well, actually, I'll get into that in a little bit. So now when we click this, we click that, we go to the passage. But what if we don't want the passage to be named run? Well, we can actually change it. Let's say, other side of dungeon. So let's say we want it to be named other side of dungeon. Yeah. And then, oh wait, I actually spelled dungeon wrong over here. Sorry. Other side of dungeon. And then over here, as you can see, it changes to other side of dungeon. But we don't want it to say that. We want it to say run. So the way we change that so that it will pop up run when you're playing it, but it actually goes to the other side of dungeon passage, is by going like this. You write down run, or whatever you want it to be actually called, and then you do a little dash and a greater than sign. Or less than, it depends. Anyway, so now we have run is what it's going to be called, but it's really going to other side of dungeon. So now when we click on this, you're in a dungeon and a troll approaches you. As you can see, it says run, but down here, it's called other side of dungeon. Alright, so that's some really simple stuff. Now, let's get into variables before I end this episode. If you don't know what a variable is, it's basically something that stores information throughout your game. Like a health system, or an inventory. So we're going to create a health system for this person. So down here, we're going to say health. By the way, this isn't going to be the story that I'm actually making. This is just like a little test to show y'all what's going on. But next episode, I'll have the real story, and you can kind of follow along with me on that. Anyway, so let's say health. And then, but we want it to keep track of health. So every time our player loses health, it'll knock it down. So instead of just writing like 10, what if we want him to lose health on the other side of the dungeon? What if we say, the troll hits you. You lose 10 health. And then we can write down here, health. 10, okay? Or how about 20, because I don't want them to die. And, well, actually it's 10, because they just lost 10. And then over here, we're going to change that to 20. Now, the problem with this is that, let me make a back, so that they can actually go back to where they were. And I'm going to name this first passage, beginning. So we're just going to do that. So the only problem with doing it like this is that, see right here it has health 20. when we run, the troll hits us and makes us lose 10 health. But, so we have 10 health right now, right? When we go back, we automatically have 20. So the way that we actually change this is by using variables. And the way you know what a variable looks like is a $sign and then anything after it. You can use anything. So you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to be calling it variable for this example. So, like I said, a variable is something that stores things throughout the game. So I'm going to do set variable. Again, you don't have to name it variable. It's just for an example. This is going to be the variable for health. So I'm going to change that to health in a little bit. Set variable to 10. Or no, 20, sorry. 20. So basically, this little variable right here has the number 20 stored inside of it. You can also store words inside of it by doing beginning quote and closing quote. But I'm just going to be assigning it a number. So then over here, instead of having to write a 20, I just need to write variable. So it's set to 20 here. But we can make it change as the game progresses. So over here, we have health 10. What we're going to do here, because he loses 10 health, we're going to do set variable to variable minus 10. Okay? So when they click on this passage, they're going to lose 10. They're going to knock that variable down from 20 to 10 because it says set 20 to 20 minus 10. It's basically what it's telling the computer. Also, we need to actually put this above it, so I'm just going to do that right now. You have to make sure that it's above it or else it won't get updated for some reason. I don't know why either, but just make sure that you do it above it. Okay. So now when we click play, health is 20, as you can see. See? Because the variable is the number 20. Then when we run, troll hits you, you lose 10 health. As you can see, the variable is set to 10. Now I bet you're wondering, wait a second, why is it 20? Because when we come back here, it sets it back to 20 from this. The way that we change that from happening is by doing this. We do an if statement. So if, and actually we need to set another variable over here. Actually, no, we don't. If, probably should. Okay, if, and I'm just gonna call it, health. Knock. Back. No, okay, I'll just do HNK. So, basically, we're gonna do set HNK to 1. Or no, to 1. And then over here, we're gonna do if HNK is 1, or no, 0, and then some brackets. Basically, what this is doing is a variable is automatically set to 0 until you change it to something else. So it gets changed when they come in here. So it's set to 1. And when it's set to 1, then the variable isn't going to get set to 20. And these brackets are very important. Remember those. Okay. So now this should work. All 10. Sweet. Alright, we did it. Okay, now next video I'm going to be showing y'all the history macro. I'll be showing y'all the random macro and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. In the beginning of Twine.